The soft beeping of the emergency scanner broke the quiet of Jake Martinez's small workshop on Ganymede Outpost. He looked up from the broken mining drone he was fixing, his dark eyebrows coming together in confusion. Emergency signals weren't uncommon this far out in Jupiter's orbit, but this one was different. Instead of the usual harsh warning tones used by human ships, this signal had an almost musical quality to it. Jake pushed his chair away from the workbench, his boots making hollow sounds against the metal floor as he walked to the scanner. The signal's pattern was like nothing he had seen before. It definitely wasn't human, and it wasn't from any of the common alien trading species he knew about. "Computer, analyze signal origin," he said, reaching for his coffee. The bitter liquid had gone cold hours ago, but he drank it anyway. Working as the only freelance engineer at the outpost meant he couldn't be picky about such things. Signal originates from coordinates matching Jupiter's upper orbit. The computer responded in its flat voice. Ship signature matches Celestian design patterns. Jake nearly choked on his coffee. The Celestians were one of the most advanced species in known space. Their biotechnology was centuries ahead of humanity's best efforts. They were also known for being a strictly matriarchal society that rarely interacted with humans beyond formal trade agreements. "Display ship status," he commanded, now fully alert. The holographic display showed a ship that looked more like a living creature than a spacecraft. Its organic curves and flowing lines were typical of Celestian design. But something was wrong. The engine section was flashing red, indicating a critical failure. Jake ran his fingers through his messy black hair, a habit he had when thinking hard. Celestian ships almost never broke down. Their biological technology was incredibly reliable. For one to have a critical failure this far from their normal trade routes was highly unusual. He pressed the communication button. "This is Engineer Jake Martinez from Ganymede Outpost. I received your distress signal. Can I offer assistance?" There was a long pause before a response came. The voice that answered was musical, like the signal had been, but there was clear tension in it. "This is Captain Nyara of the Celestian vessel Byrvitham. We have experienced a mechanical failure." The way she said mechanical made it sound like something distasteful. "I'm a certified deep space engineer," Jake said. "I can come assess the problem if you'd like." Another pause, longer this time. He could almost feel their reluctance through the communication line. Celestians were proud of their technology, and accepting help from a human must have been difficult for them. "We accept your offer of assistance," Captain Nyara finally replied, though she didn't sound happy about it. "But be warned, our ship's systems are far more advanced than anything you've encountered before." Jake smiled to himself as he began gathering his tools. "I look forward to learning something new then, Captain." He packed his emergency repair kit, checked his suit's oxygen levels, and prepared his small maintenance ship for launch. As he went through the pre-flight checks, he couldn't help but wonder what he would find. Celestian technology was largely a mystery to humans. Most engineers would give anything for a chance to see it up close. The maintenance ship's engines hummed to life as Jake guided it out of the hangar. Through the viewport, he could see the strange organic shape of the Celestian vessel floating against the massive backdrop of Jupiter. Whatever was wrong with their ship, he was determined to help fix it, even if they doubted his abilities. After all, sometimes the simplest solutions worked best, even for the most advanced problems. Jake's maintenance ship drew closer to the Celestian vessel, and his eyes widened at what he saw. The ship looked like a giant sea creature, its outer hull shimmering with patterns that reminded him of coral reefs he'd seen in old Earth documentaries. It was easily 3 times the size of his ship, its surface seeming to pulse with a faint inner light. As he approached the docking area, he noticed something odd. While most of the ship looked organic and flowing, the engine section stood out like a sore thumb. It was clearly mechanical, with harsh metal lines that didn't match the rest of the design. "Engineer Martinez, you have permission to dock." Captain Nyara's voice came through his communicator. "Please follow our guidance system." A soft blue light appeared, leading his ship to a docking port that looked like it was opening like a flower. Jake carefully lined up his ship and watched in amazement as biological tendrils reached out to secure his vessel, creating an airtight seal. When he stepped through the airlock, he found himself in a corridor that seemed alive. The walls had a slight give to them, like firm muscle, and they glowed with a warm, welcoming light. The air smelled fresh, like a garden after rain. 3 Celestian women waited for him. They were tall, with silvery skin that had the same shimmering quality as their ship's hull. Their eyes were large and entirely purple, without pupils. What looked like delicate patterns of circuits ran along their exposed arms, glowing faintly. "I am Captain Naira," the tallest of them said, stepping forward. Her voice carried the same musical quality it had over the communicator, but there was an edge to it. "These are my chief engineers, Lyra and Venna." Jake nodded respectfully. "Thank you for allowing me to help. Can you show me to the engine room?" The 3 Celestians exchanged looks that Jake couldn't quite read. "Very well," Captain Naira said. "Follow us." As they walked through the ship, Jake noticed how everything seemed to work together like parts of a living body. Doors opened automatically by recognizing their presence, and information displays grew out of the walls when needed. But when they reached the engine room, the contrast was stark. Here, conventional mechanical technology met the biological systems of the ship, and the join between them was clearly the problem. The mechanical drive system was trying to interface with the ship's organic components, but the connection was failing. "We've tried everything we know," Lyra said, frustration clear in her voice. "But these mechanical parts refuse to cooperate with our biosystems." Jake studied the interface carefully. "I think I see the problem," he said, pulling out his diagnostic tools. "You're trying to connect them like they're the same type of system, but they speak different languages, so to speak." "Different languages?" Venna asked, moving closer to watch as he worked. "Explain." "Your biological systems work in harmony, adapting and flowing. But mechanical systems need strict parameters," Jake explained, his hands moving quickly as he worked. "You need a translator between them, something that can convert the biological signals into mechanical commands and vice versa." He pulled out a small device from his kit and began modifying it. The Celestians watched with growing interest as he worked, their initial dismissiveness fading into curiosity. "There," he said after about 20 minutes of work. "Try it now." Captain Naira nodded to Lyra, who touched a control surface. The ship hummed to life, the mechanical drive syncing perfectly with the biological systems. The 3 Celestians stared in surprise as their engine readings returned to normal. "How did you know?" Captain Naira asked, her tone now carrying respect instead of doubt. Jake smiled as he packed up his tools. "Sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones. You just needed a bridge between your 2 types of technology." The look the 3 Celestians shared this time was different, calculating, but in a way that made Jake wonder if he'd done more than just fix their engine. After fixing the engine, Captain Naira invited Jake to join them in what they called the living chamber. Unlike the mechanical engine room, this space was entirely biological. The floor felt like soft moss under his feet, and what looked like floating lights danced in the air around them. "Please, sit." Naira gestured to what appeared to be a growing chair. Jake hesitated for a moment before settling into it, surprised to find it adjusted perfectly to his body. "Your solution was unexpected," Lyra said, taking the seat across from him. "We would have never considered using such simple mechanical technology to bridge the gap." Jake watched as a cup formed from the table in front of him, filling itself with a clear liquid. "Is it safe for me to drink?" he asked. Venna nodded. "Our ship can analyze your biology. It has created something compatible with your system." He took a careful sip. The liquid tasted like honey mixed with mint, and he felt instantly refreshed. "This is amazing," he said. "How does it work?" "Our entire society is built on biological technology," Captain Naira explained. "Everything you see here is alive in some way. The ship grows and adapts to our needs. It's why we struggled with the mechanical drive system. It goes against everything we understand about technology. But why use a mechanical drive at all? Jake asked, genuinely curious. The three Celestians shared a look before Nara answered. We discovered that for long-distance space travel, mechanical drives are more efficient. Our biological systems excel at everything else. But when it comes to raw power for space travel, you're primitive. She paused, correcting herself. Your mechanical technology has advantages. Jake nodded, understanding. That's why you were in this sector, testing the new drive. Yes, Lara confirmed. We're carrying important medical supplies to Earth. This new hybrid drive system was supposed to make the journey faster, but we didn't anticipate the integration problems. As they talked, Jake noticed small changes in the room. The lights adjusted to create a more comfortable atmosphere, and the temperature shifted slightly to match his preference. The ship was actively adapting to his presence. Your ship, he said. It's learning about me, isn't it? Vena looked impressed. You're observant. Yes, our ships are semi-conscious. They learn and adapt to better serve their crew. You're the first human it's ever encountered directly. That's why we've invited you here, Captain Naira added. Your solution to our engine problem showed us something important. We've always seen mechanical technology as inferior, but you showed us it has its own kind of elegance. Jake noticed the three women were watching him intently now. There was something in their expressions he couldn't quite read, a mixture of curiosity and calculation. Our society values efficiency above all else, Lyra explained. We recognize when someone has knowledge or skills that could be valuable. Your understanding of mechanical systems, combined with your ability to think creatively about their integration with our biotech, it's unique. What Lyra means, Captain Naira said, leaning forward slightly, is that we might be interested in more than just this one repair. Our people have been looking for ways to better integrate mechanical systems into our technology. We've been resistant to outside help, but perhaps that was a mistake. Jake felt the weight of their attention. Are you offering me a job? Vena smiled, the first time he'd seen any of them do so. We're offering you an opportunity. But before we discuss that further, she was cut off by a sudden alarm that filled the ship. The living chamber's walls pulsed with red light, and Jake could feel his chair tense beneath him. Captain Naira's expression turned serious as she touched a control surface that grew from her chair. It seems we have a problem, she said grimly. A solar flare is heading directly for us, and with our drive systems still stabilizing. Jake straightened in his chair. He had a feeling his visit had just gotten a lot more complicated. The ship's living walls pulsed with warning lights as Captain Naira pulled up a holographic display of the approaching solar flare. Jake could see that it was massive, far larger than anything he'd dealt with at Ganymede Outpost. Our biological shields won't charge fast enough, Vena reported, her fingers dancing over a living control panel. The new drive system is drawing too much power. Can't you just shut down the mechanical drive? Jake asked, already thinking through possible solutions. Lyra shook her head. The integration process has gone too far. Shutting it down now could damage both systems permanently. Jake stood up, his engineer's mind racing. What about combining our shields? My maintenance ship has a standard deflector system. If we could link it with your biological shields. Impossible, Captain Naira started to say, but then paused, looking at him with new interest. Unless, could we use your translator approach again? Exactly. Jake moved quickly to a wall display. Your ship's biological systems are already trying to adapt to my presence. What if we use that same principle to sync our shield systems? The three Celestians exchanged quick glances before Captain Naira nodded. Explain what you need. Working fast, Jake sketched out his plan. They would use his small maintenance ship's shield generator as a focus point, linking it to the Celestian vessel's biological defenses through a modified version of the interface he created for the engine. Lyra helped him modify the shield connections, Captain Naira ordered. Vena, prepare the ship's defensive systems. We have less than 10 minutes. Jake and Lyra raced through the living corridors to the docking area. As they worked, Jake noticed how smoothly the ship's biological components responded to their needs, tools and connections growing right out of the walls when required. "Your ship," Jake said as he worked. "It's actually helping us, isn't it?" Lyra nodded, her hands moving quickly to assist him. "It senses the danger and understands what we're trying to do. The ship wants to survive as much as we do." They finished the modifications just as Vena's voice came through the ship's communication system. "Flare approaching. Shield activation in 30 seconds. Jake held his breath as both shield systems powered up. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then he saw it, a beautiful merger of technologies. The mechanical shield from his ship created a rigid framework, while the biological defenses flowed through and around it like liquid light, strengthening weak points and adapting to the solar radiation. The flare hit them with tremendous force. The ship shuddered, and Jake could hear the strain in both the mechanical and biological systems. But they held. Through the nearest viewport, he watched in amazement as the combined shields created patterns he'd never seen before. Geometric shapes from his mechanical shield merging with organic swirls from their biological defenses, creating something entirely new. "Remarkable," Captain Naira said, joining them at the viewport. "Your mechanical shield is actually making our biological defenses more efficient. The rigid structure is allowing for better energy distribution. And your biological systems are filling in the gaps in my mechanical shield," Jake added, watching the beautiful interaction of the two technologies. They're perfect complements to each other. As the solar flare passed, the immediate danger faded, but Jake could tell something had changed. The way the three Celestians were looking at him was different now, with a kind of respect he hadn't seen before. "You know," Vena said, checking the ship's readings, "this shield combination, it's not just more effective. It's using less energy than either system alone would have needed." Captain Naira placed a hand on the living wall of her ship, seeming to communicate with it silently for a moment. When she turned to Jake, her expression was both serious and excited. "I think," she said carefully, "it's time we discussed that opportunity we mentioned earlier. What you've shown us today, it changes everything." After the solar flare passed, Captain Naira led Jake back to the living chamber. The room had changed since their last visit. The walls now displayed a mix of mechanical and biological patterns, as if the ship itself was trying to understand the merger of technologies they had just witnessed. "Before we continue," Naira said, settling into her chair, "there's something you should know about our situation." She glanced at Lyra and Vena, who nodded encouragingly. Jake felt a slight shift in the atmosphere. The engine problem wasn't just a random failure, was it? "No," Naira admitted. "The mechanical drive's integration issues were real, but we anticipated them. We've been observing human engineers for months, looking for someone who might approach problems differently than we do." Jake sat straighter in his chair. "You were testing me." "Not exactly," Lyra interjected. "We needed genuine help, but we also needed to know if humans could truly understand and work with our technology. Previous attempts didn't go well." Vena touched a spot on the wall, and a holographic display appeared, showing various failed attempts at combining mechanical and biological technologies. "Other engineers tried to force our systems to work their way. But you," she smiled, "you looked for ways to let both technologies do what they do best." "Our society is at a crossroads," Captain Naira explained. "For centuries, we've relied solely on biological technology. It's elegant, adaptable, and living, but we've reached its limits, especially in space travel. We need to evolve, to incorporate new ideas. But our people are resistant to change." Jake watched as the holographic display showed more images, Celestian ships struggling with deep space travel, failing to maintain stability during long journeys. "That's why you're carrying medical supplies to Earth. To test the hybrid drive." "Yes, but there's more." Naira leaned forward. "What you did today, with both the engine and the shields. It's unprecedented. Our ship has never responded so well to an outsider. It's actually trying to learn from your mechanical systems. Jake glanced around the room, noticing how the organic walls now had subtle geometric patterns running through them. I can see that. But what does this mean? It means, Lyra said excitedly, that we were right. The future isn't in choosing between biological and mechanical technology. It's in finding ways to use both together. Our council back home was skeptical, Venna added. They didn't believe mechanical technology could ever truly work in harmony with our biological systems. But now we have proof. Captain Naira stood and walked to a wall, which parted to reveal a small chamber. Inside was a glowing crystal that seemed to pulse with both organic and mechanical energy. This is a memory crystal. It's recorded everything that's happened since you came aboard. When we return home, it will show our council exactly what you achieved. But we want to offer you more than just recognition, she continued, turning back to Jake. We want you to help us bridge our technologies permanently, to teach our engineers how to think differently about mechanical systems, and in turn, learn how biological technology could benefit humanity. Jake's mind raced with the possibilities. You mean a kind of exchange program? More than that, Lyra smiled. We want you to be the first human to be formally integrated into Celestian society, to help us establish a new academy that combines both our approaches to technology. The choice is yours, Captain Naira said softly. But know that what you've shown us today could change both our civilizations for the better. Jake looked around the room, at the living walls now embracing geometric patterns, at the three Celestian women watching him hopefully, and at his own reflection in a nearby surface, a human engineer who had somehow bridged two vastly different technological worlds. He took a deep breath, knowing his next words would shape not just his future, but potentially the future of two species. Jake stood up and walked to the viewport, watching Jupiter's massive form rotating slowly in the distance. The decision in front of him was bigger than anything he'd ever faced before. Before I answer, he said, turning back to the Celestians, I need to understand exactly what you're offering. What does being integrated into your society mean? Captain Naira gestured, and a new holographic display appeared in the center of the living chamber. In our culture, integration is both physical and mental. We would give you this. The display showed what looked like a delicate web of glowing circuits, similar to the patterns on the Celestian skin. A biolink, Lyra explained, touching her own shimmering patterns. It would connect you to our collective knowledge while maintaining your individual thoughts and personality. More importantly, it would let you directly interface with our technology. Like having a computer in my head? Jake asked, fascinated but cautious. Venna shook her head. More like gaining a new sense. You would understand our biological technology intuitively, the way you understand mechanical systems now, but you would still be completely yourself. As if to demonstrate, the ship created a small demonstration. A piece of the wall extended towards Jake, forming into a complex mechanical-biological hybrid device. Try to touch it, Captain Naira encouraged. Jake reached out and placed his hand on the device. Nothing happened. Now imagine, Naira said, being able to feel its needs, understand its purpose, and guide its growth, just as you understand the mechanical systems you work with. The possibility was incredible. Jake thought about all the ways human mechanical engineering could be improved with biological components, and how Celestian biotechnology could benefit from mechanical efficiency. There's something else you should know, Captain Naira said, her voice becoming more formal. If you accept, you would be more than just a teacher or advisor. You would be the first human to hold a position of authority in our technological development program. What exactly would that mean? Jake asked. You would help establish and lead a new division, Lyra explained excitedly. One dedicated to developing hybrid technologies. Your success with our ship proves it's possible. We need someone who can see both perspectives. And what about Earth? Jake asked. Would I be allowed to share what I learn? Within reason, Captain Naira nodded. We propose establishing a joint research facility. Humanity would benefit from our biotechnology, while we would learn from your mechanical expertise. You would be the bridge between our peoples. Jake looked at his reflection again in the living wall. The patterns flowing through it now seemed to mirror both the geometric precision he loved in mechanical engineering and the organic flow of Celestian technology. There would be challenges, Vena warned. Some of our people will resist change. Many humans might not understand or trust our methods. You would face opposition from both sides. But you would have our full support, Captain Naira added. Our council has authorized me to offer you full citizenship and protection under our laws. You would be treated as one of our own. Jake thought about his life at Ganymede Outpost. He was doing good work there, but this was a chance to be part of something revolutionary, to help bring together two different approaches to technology in ways that could benefit both species. He made his decision. I accept, he said firmly, but I have one condition. The three Celestian women looked at him curiously. Name it, Captain Naira said. I want to help design the integration process, Jake said. If we're going to build a bridge between our technologies, we should start with how I'm connected to your systems. Let's make the biolink itself a hybrid of both our approaches. Captain Naira's expression shifted to one of surprised approval. Even before he was officially integrated, Jake was already thinking about how to combine their technologies in new ways. That, she said with a warm smile, is exactly why we chose you. 3 weeks after his decision, Jake stood in front of a mirror in his new quarters aboard the biorhythm, examining the faint, silvery patterns that now traced across his skin. The biolink integration had been successful, and just as he'd suggested, they had modified it to incorporate both biological and mechanical elements. How does it feel? Captain Naira asked, entering the room. The door grew from the wall and disappeared again seamlessly behind her. Strange, but amazing, Jake replied, watching as the patterns shifted slightly with his thoughts. It's like having an extra sense, just like you said. I can feel the ship, and it can feel me. The walls of his quarters pulsed warmly in response to his words. Over the past weeks, he helped design these rooms, creating a space that blended human comfort with Celestian biotechnology. His workbench, covered with traditional tools, sat next to a living computer terminal that responded to his thoughts. The council has reviewed our memory crystal, Naira said, sitting in a chair that grew to meet her. They were impressed by your shield modification during the solar flare. Even the most conservative members couldn't deny the potential. Jake smiled, remembering how that crisis had changed everything. And the Academy proposal? Approved, she confirmed. Construction, or perhaps I should say growing, will begin as soon as we return. You'll have full authority to design the curriculum, combining our teaching methods with human practical training. Lyra and Vena entered the room, carrying what looked like a formal document written on living paper. Your citizenship certificate, Lyra announced proudly, the first ever issued to a human. Jake took the document carefully. The text seemed to flow and shift between human and Celestian script, another example of their technologies working together. Thank you, he said sincerely, all of you, for taking a chance on this idea. We should be thanking you, Vena replied. Already, your insights are changing how we think about technology. Look, she gestured to a nearby display, showing his latest project, a hybrid water recycling system that used mechanical pumps to make the biological purification process 40% more efficient. The Earth government has responded to our proposal, Captain Naira added. They're excited about the joint research facility. They're already selecting candidates for the first exchange program. Jake walked to the viewport, where Jupiter was now just a distant dot. They were heading to the Celestian homeworld, where his real work would begin. The biolink hummed softly in his mind, sharing information about their destination. There will be challenges ahead, he said thoughtfully. Getting humans and Celestians to work together, teaching them to see beyond their traditional approaches. But that's why we need you, Lyra said confidently. You've proven it can work. The BioLink integration alone is revolutionary. The first successful merger of our neural interface technology with human mechanical enhancement principles. Jake touched the patterns on his arm, feeling the subtle mix of technologies. It's more than just combining technologies, he realized. It's about combining ways of thinking, showing both sides that different approaches can work together, make each other better. Captain Naira stepped forward, her expression serious but hopeful. You're about to become part of history, Jake Martinez, the first human citizen of our world, the first joint technology advisor, the founder of a new kind of academy. Are you ready? Jake looked around the room, at his modified tools, at the living walls that now responded to his thoughts, at the 3 Celestian women who had become his colleagues and friends, and at the endless stars beyond the viewport. His old life fixing mining drones on Ganymede seemed like a distant memory now. I'm ready, he said confidently. Let's show both our peoples what we can achieve together. As if in response, the ship's biological systems hummed in harmony with his mechanical modifications, creating a new kind of music, the sound of 2 civilizations beginning to work as one. The future was waiting, and it would be built with both wrenches and living circuits.